Hey folks, it's Rob, and sorry about missing last week, but for those of you watching along as these get broadcast, I missed out last week. As you can tell from my voice, I'm still recovering actually, but I was really not well last week after I caught something off my lovely aunt at New Year's. Um, and, you know, my voice is shot from a lot of coughing, which is not great, and it's going to be a while getting back, but I wanted to get back into things and not give up recording. Uh, I'm going to do this 2 pages here is the plan for Dragonfly, which last episode was Dragon, which was quite substantial, but this is also a 2 pager. The next one's a 2 pager. And then we're back to like single page entities again, at least. But uh, I hope you can tolerate this. I hope I can tolerate this. We'll see. But we have both pages on the screen because we can. Dragonfly. So you can see we have white, black, green, blue, and red varieties. And apparently the climate/terrain varies, see below, so that'll be in the text. The frequency is very rare for every single color of dragonfly. They are solitary in all events. They are day active in all events. They are carnivores in all events. Their intelligence is animal one. They are, they're insects. The dragonflies. Um, they have no treasure in any event. They are all neutral because they are functionally just giant insect animal things. 3d6 appear in all flavors. The armor class varies. So the white has an REC of 2, being the easiest to hit. Black is 1, green is 0, blue is -1, and red is -2. Movement in all cases is 6 on the ground, flying 24, and they are A-type flyers, so they're very agile. The hit dice varies. So white is the least at 3. Black is a 3 plus 2. Green, it gets 4 hit dice. Blue is 4 plus 2. And then red is 5. Their to hit AC 0 is always 17, except for the red, which has a 15. They each get 1 attack, which is a 1d6 bite. They do have breath weapons, which we'll get into. No special defenses, no magic resistance. They're always small, 3 to 4 feet long, which, for an insect is pretty gigantic, but, nasty enough. Morale is, again, in all cases, except for the blue and red. So white, black, and green are 10 average morale, while blue and red are 11, slightly higher. The XP value increases with the type as well. So white is 120, black is 175, green is 175, blue is 270, and red is 270. So that's our stat block. Let's get into the actual text. This creature is a magical crossbreed between the comparatively tiny, benign insect by the same name and an actual dragon. Often called a giant dragonfly, the crossbreed measures 3 to 4 feet long and has a subtly draconian head. Otherwise, it looks like the insect. It has 2 pairs of wings, and the front pair is smaller than the rear. The wings never fold back, even when the creature has landed and is resting. They remain outstretched. So you can see in the 2 example pictures, I feel like it stands out in the lower forward one here a bit more. The draconian nature of the head here, but you can also see the other one over here and how it's kind of a bit more, I don't know, wormish than you might expect. So, And once again, these are a little more washed out than they would be in the copy that's in my hand that I'm reading from. Uh, 5 distinct types of dragonfly inhabit Mystara: white, black, green, blue, and red. The color reveals which species of dragon a creature takes after, that is, it defines the dragonfly's breath weapon: red, fire, blue, lightning, and so forth. White will have a cone of cold, black will have that acid breath. Um, you get the picture. Um, Note that immature dragonflies, or nymphs, are practically a separate monster in appearance and behavior. Dragonflies have only animal intelligence, and they never talk or use spells. Well, thank goodness for that. Dragonflies dart around very quickly. Even normal insect dragonflies are capable of darting at speeds up to 60 miles per hour and are hard to hit. They also can stop instantly and hover in midair before darting off in our direction. Well, if you've ever seen a dragonfly, you have an idea how they move around. And these are just going to be gigantic dragonflies with magical breath attacks. A dragonfly can breathe and bite during each round of combat. Its breath weapon inflicts 1 point of damage per hit die of the dragonfly. So, not per hit point, but just per hit die. So, a white dragon will inflict 3 points of damage with its breath weapon. Before any applicable save, I would imagine. The area affected is only 3 feet long and 1 foot wide. Each breath normally affects only one creature. A saving throw versus breath weapon is allowed, only if the victim is not fighting the dragonfly in melee. Those in hand-to-hand combat get no saving throw against the breath. Characters who successfully make their saving throws take half damage from the breath weapon. There is no limit to the number of times a dragonfly can breathe. Well, that's wild. So, the area effect is only 3 feet long and 1 foot wide. It's really going to affect maybe 1 or 2 combatants, right? And honestly, probably more likely 1. But that combatant's probably going to be in melee combat with it. But maybe you're zipping it around and it's come up to a random party member because it is an insect. I don't know. You determine for yourself how you want to guide this target to its targets, but maybe it has randomly determined a magic user in the back who would not be in melee combat. He'd just probably be preparing his spell or some ranged weapon if you allow that. And yeah, that saving throw might help, but it's not a lot of damage. But it does mean it can use that breath every round, as well as the bite, apparently. So really, it's 2 attacks. Habitat/society. Dragonflies roam nearly anywhere except in cool or cold mountains. Most of the 5 types prefer warm climates that offer plenty of water. For more information, see individual descriptions below. Ecology. The relatively tiny insects called dragonflies are insectivores. They feed on smaller insects like mosquitoes. The giant dragonflies of Mystara eagerly devour small rodents, birds, bird-side insects, worms, and slugs. See individual entries for further detail. All dragonflies need standing water to reproduce. For some, this may mean a journey far from their preferred habitat for the mating season. The female dragonfly lays her eggs underwater, attaching the eggs to plants. If she can find a plant large enough for the purpose, she sometimes cuts a slit in the stem of the trunk and places the eggs inside. Dragonfly eggs are quite small, half an inch in diameter is typical. 3 to 8 weeks after eggs are laid, they hatch. Young dragonflies emerge as dragonfly nymphs. See nymphs below. Now, it says below. That's actually on the next page. That's over here. Okay, so we'll get to it. But bear with us. We will get to the nymph section. White dragonfly. These dragonflies range further north than others, inhabiting conifer forests and southern fringes of Arctic tundra. Their life cycle is shortest of the five species, limited by the brief yet intense summers of their homes. Adults emerge from their old nymph bodies in the springtime and have but one summer to grow fat on Arctic insects, especially mosquitoes, small rodents such as rats and lemmings, and the tiny migratory birds that have journeyed to feast on the many insects that buzz under the midnight sun. In late summer, white dragonflies lay eggs in northern lakes, slow streams, and bogs. When the frost arrives, the adult dragonflies die, which is why they never grow beyond 3 hit dice. The eggs, however, as well as the nymphs, adapt to the cold. They can survive being frozen through the long, dark winter. Come spring, they hatch and begin their life cycle anew. The white dragonfly's breath weapon is a blast of freezing cold and ice crystals. Now I'm hoping when I'm reading this that you're kind of getting ideas for how to make use of such a creature. Because I feel like this is actually a pretty decent monster to throw at the party, as long as you're not throwing, say, 18 of them at once. You do roll 3d6 for an encounter, but, maybe manage how many actual dragonflies you're going to throw at the party at one given time. Maybe they've been sent to collect some of these eggs, or maybe collect some frozen nymphs, right? And bring them back to, that warlock in town who will pay a hefty sum for such items. Or maybe he wants some bits of the actual dragonflies themselves. Maybe he wants a head of one, right? Black dragonfly. The black dragonfly lives in dank swamps and temperate bogs. It enjoys climates from the tropics to middle latitudes. Black dragonflies do not grow very large because there are so many of them. Individuals compete intensely to survive within their crowded habitat. The black dragonfly's breath weapon is a stream of caustic acid distilled from an unpleasant chemicals natural to the instinct's decomposing home. Green dragonfly. The green dragonfly shares the climate range of the black, from tropical to temperate, but prefers forested areas. Its breeding is done in lakes and slow rivers more frequently than bogs, though green and black dragonflies do occasionally compete for territory. The green dragonfly's breath weapon takes the form of a small cloud of dense green chlorine gas. The dragonfly's body processes the chlorine from plain salt sodium chloride found in its environment. Blue dragonfly. The blue dragonfly is a creature of the plains, roving over wide landscapes and devouring many small mammals and birds, from thrushes to prairie dogs. It rarely eats insects except the giant variety, as they do not satisfy its hunger. The blue dragonfly lays its eggs in ponds and small lakes that dot the prairies, and in the eddies of slow-moving rivers. Farmers keep a careful eye out for blue dragonflies during the hot months, when grass fires may easily be sparked by the creature's lightning breath attack. Fair enough. Red dragonfly. Most powerful of the dragonflies, the red can grow up to 5 feet in length. It inhabits virtually any terrain in temperate or warmer climates and is known to migrate from one place to another in search of food. Hills and moors often yield the best pickings. Stories are told of red dragonflies that have carried off young lambs. Certainly rabbits are not unusual prey. The red dragonfly is extraordinarily vicious and will attack even others of its own kind to satisfy its hunger. The breath attack of a red dragonfly is a small column of searing fire. It is the most feared dragonfly attack. Nymph. The young dragonfly or nymph looks quite different from the creature that it will grow to be. Nymphs are long-legged and wingless. A chitinous carapace protects their flat body. Their coloration is dark brown or black. There is no consistent relation between the various nymph hues and adult coloration. It is impossible to tell what type of dragonfly a nymph will become based on its color. Nymphs grow rapidly. 2 to 3 weeks after hatching, a nymph is about 1 foot long and has 1 hit die. After a year of growth, it becomes a 2 hit die monster, 2 to 3 feet in length. Combat. All dragonfly nymphs, regardless of species, have an acidic breath weapon. This is a thin jet of greenish liquid that the nymph can spits against the single target up to 3 feet away. Nymphs can spit and bite in the same round, but generally do not do so unless agitated. The nymph breath weapon, like that of the adult dragonfly, inflicts 1 point of damage per hit die, that is, 1 or 2 hit points, depending on the nymph's age. A saving throw is only permitted to those not engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the nymph. If the save is failed or not allowed, one piece of equipment, determined by the DM, is hit by the acid and must make a successful saving throw versus acid or be destroyed. This reminds me that in the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons rulebook, there was an equipment saving throw chart. This is not something that the basic Dungeons & Dragons rule set has. You would probably instead have to make a judgment as to what kind of save as this would be necessary to do. It's obviously against like an acid attack, but like, what do you determine the equipment to be, right? The nymph's bite causes 1 to 2 points of damage. Nymphs have an armor class of 5 and have no flying move. All other statistics for nymphs are the same as for their adult forms. Larger nymphs are more aggressive. 2 hit die nymphs may attack man-sized creatures if sufficiently hungry. They are too stupid to be turned back by something like a show of force. Only after attacking something and finding it inedible, several failed attacks against an armored character, for example, will a nymph break off an attack. Nymphs propel themselves underwater by taking water in through their mouths, passing it through their bodies, and jetting it out behind. They move, therefore, in sudden spurts, swimming 12. Their streamlined bodies make movement easier when their legs are tucked up next to their carapace. Habitat/society. Most dragonflies lay eggs in fresh water, especially lakes and ponds, but some species have adapted to saltwater environments. All nymphs are aquatic. Nymphs live by instinct, not intelligence. Each is simply interested in eating voraciously. Their preferred prey includes insects, tender plants, and small amphibians. The first nymphs to hatch in a group usually make their siblings their first meal. Ecology. A nymph's life cycle is 2 years long. During warm months, the nymph eats as much as possible. When weather turns cold, it enters a static state like hibernation. The second winter, the nymph undergoes a metamorphosis within its shell. What emerges in the spring is a completely different creature, an adult dragonfly that crawls out of the husk that held the nymph. Its iridescent wings spread, and it abandons familiar waters for unknown skies. Well, that was quite good reading. I enjoyed reading about that. I found it stirring my imagination in a variety of ways for things I could do with it. I have certainly thrown an odd robber fly, that kind of thing, at the party, or even just like a swarm of dragon beetles, which I'm certain we'll get to at some point. But actually, I don't think dragon beetles are in this version. No, I think they're in a different book. But regardless, I apologize once again for the state of my voice and how hoarse I am. Fortunately, I was able to hold the voice together long enough to read out these two entries, so I'm quite pleased at that. Next time, we will continue forward, but I hope you have a great day. Thank you again for joining me. Goodbye.